Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So if you're interested in pursuing a career in the medical field, you might be familiar with a website called Student Doctor Network. If you're not, it's basically a forum site with a bunch of threads on all the different professions that kind of encompass the medical field. For example, there will be a main physical therapy thread that's going to break down into pre-physical therapy and physical therapy. The pre-physical therapy section has a bunch of threads on specific programs, general questions, or even like application cycles. A lot of people are on there to connect with others just like them. But one thing that everyone loves to ask on there, especially during the application cycle, is what are your stats, if you don't mind me asking? People like to use others' stats to kind of get a feel for where they stand for a particular program. I'm going to expose myself in this video and share my stats with you guys. And I think you guys will be surprised because a lot of applicants think that GPA is the end-all be-all. That is not necessarily true. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with undergrad. So if you've seen my video on how I decided to become a PT, you already know that I went to community college for 3 years. I started off as a biology major and then I changed to public health sciences, which is what I applied to UC Irvine as, but I got waitlisted and accepted as my alternate major, which was public health policy. I had a 2.9 cumulative GPA when I transferred to UCI, and I graduated as magna cum laude with a 3.75 GPA from UCI with a Bachelor of Arts in Public Health Policy. I also have an Associate of Arts in Kinesiology, which I graduated as cum laude with, and an Associate of Science in Biology. Both of the associate's degrees I got at community college post-bac. Now let's move on to GRE. So with the GRE, I want to preface my scores by sharing that I only really studied for maybe a good 3 to 4 days worth. I did kind of cram for it, but without further ado, on the verbal section, I got a 154, which is in the 64th percentile, and on the quantitative section I got a 149, which is in the 34th percentile, and on the analytical writing I got a 4.0, which is in the 57th percentile. I did only take it once. I did consider retaking it, but ultimately decided not to. However, if I hadn't gotten into a program this cycle, I would have definitely retaken it and studied more diligently. Or at least I hope I would have. So for the references section, if you're familiar with PTCast, you can upload up to 4 references. I uploaded 3. So I had one recommendation letter from a professor. I had her for the anatomy and physio series, so I knew her for a year from that. And then I was also in a club with her for 2 semesters. And the last semester I was in the club, I was actually club president and she was the advisor for the club. I knew her for a good little while, almost like 2 years, I want to say. My other 2 references were both from physical therapists. One physical therapist I had done hundreds of hours with, and the other I had done about 50 with. And now I'm going to get into the GPA. I'm going to share my GPA as it's calculated by PTCast, but keep in mind programs do their own calculations as well, especially for the prereq GPA. So my overall cumulative GPA was a 3.34. and my science GPA was a 2.98. My post-bac GPA was a 3.86. I also want to share my prereq GPA, but keep in mind that I calculated it myself using basically the most common prereqs I came across that the programs that I applied to kind of required. I did repeat a class, Chem 1A. Initially I had gotten an F in it. The second time I took it, I got a B in it. So I'm only counting the B. That also varies program by program. Some will just take into account your highest grade when they're calculating the prereq GPA, and some will average the 2. For my calculations, I'm just taking it as the highest. I'll put it up on the screen too, each class and the grade that went along with it and how many credits it was worth, and you can see that the calculated GPA is a 3.50. So now I'm going to move on to extracurriculars. I had basically listed 3 clubs that were all like community service based clubs. I also listed that I was an intern at a nonprofit during my time in undergrad at UCI. It was required as part of a class, but I still listed it because it was still like hours that I did. I did 100 hours. For my work experience, I was a substitute teacher. At the time I was filling out my app, I had only been doing it for about a week. I was also a tutor at community college for anatomy and physiology, and that was for about 4.5 months. I also worked at Target as a beauty advisor and a team member for 4 months. I used to also be an optical technician for 8.5 months. Lastly, I was a caregiver and med tech for about 2.5 years at an assisted living facility. For my shadowing and volunteer hours, pretty much all of them were shadowing except for the outpatient place. So I had 4 sites. I did 19 hours at a skilled nursing facility. I did 59 hours at Children's Hospital, like inpatient rehab. I did 51 hours at a community hospital, just inpatient acute care. And I did 242 hours at an outpatient ortho clinic. So in total, I did about 371 hours. Under achievements, I put that I graduated cum laude from community college, magna cum laude from UCI. I was on the dean's list for 2 semesters at community college. I was on the dean's list for 3 quarters at UCI, and I was also awarded a leadership scholarship from community college as well. Let's get into like the program nitty-gritty now. So I applied to 12 programs total. 9 were here in California and 3 were out of state. One of the ones that was here in California allowed me to apply to both their summer and fall cohort, but I'm only going to count it as one. Before I get into the interview section, I do want to say that one of the programs that I applied to, of the 12, it was out of state. And they had a supplemental that I never got around to completing because by the time I got the invite to do the supplemental, I was already accepted in state. I didn't really care for that one anymore. So my application just kind of got thrown out because it wasn't technically complete since I didn't do the supplemental. Also, another program that I applied to, I didn't read their prereqs thoroughly enough. So I spent all this money applying there only for my application to not be considered because I was missing a prereq. So I'm not going to count those 2 programs anymore. So for the interviews, so out of the 10 programs that are kind of left, 7 of them did hold interviews and I got invited to 6 of the 7. The one that I didn't get invited to, I had a really weird experience with them. I submitted my app, I submitted my supplemental, and then I never got any sort of updates. I would call them, I would email them, I left voicemails, all of that stuff, and they never got back to me. So I kind of stopped caring about them because I wasn't really like super invested in their program. And then like kind of like the treatment I got, I didn't care for it anymore, especially after that. But I'm not going to count that program anymore either. Out of the 6 interviews I ended up getting, I completed 5 of them. I didn't do 1 because it was out of state. I was already accepted to an in-state program. I wasn't interested in relocating and paying out-of-state tuition for a program that I didn't necessarily like prioritize anyway, especially not more than the one that I was already accepted to. My application got thrown out for that one, and so I won't count that one anymore either. So out of the 8 programs that were kind of left, I got accepted to 4 programs. Got waitlisted at 4 as well. Out of those 4, one of them later accepted me, so I counted it as an acceptance. One of them was that program that let me apply to both cohorts, but I got waitlisted for both of the cohorts. One of them was a state school and put me on like their low tier like wait list. Another program I got waitlisted at, it was one that I mentioned in my interview video that I really didn't care for. And then I got denied from one program, which was another state school. In terms of interviews, I did complete 5 and I got accepted at 4 of the 5, which I think showcases like the power of interviews. And I really applaud programs that do hold interviews. Interviews are absolutely necessary to get like a holistic view of an applicant. I also think it's a more fair approach in deciding who gets accepted and who doesn't. Ultimately, my goal with this video was to kind of show you that you can get accepted to multiple programs without necessarily having a 4.0 GPA or thousands of hours, because I didn't have any of that. So the video is just meant to kind of spark some hope in anyone that feels like they're not going to get into a DPT program because of XYZ. Because if I can do it, you can do it. If you have any further questions or want like specifics on things that I mentioned, for example, like which programs did I actually get accepted at, like the names of them, I didn't want to share them in the video, but if you do message me, I will share that with you. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!